Nicholas, hi, we're live now, and I see that you're already presenting. So Nicholas has been with NEM for a lot long, and has been in the space investing and helping projects build, specifically towards the trading element. He has run a trading company, in the background, and now is helping NEM as the head of trading at NEM as well. But he's got his love for NFTs, and he is trying to help us share knowledge in terms of how we can get the economics behind NFTs sorted. How can we value and really understand how the intrinsic value or the speculative value that comes out of NFTs, works. So all up to you, Nicholas. I'm just gonna go off the stage and give you all the stage. And the questions, guys, can be put in the Q&A segment. Looking forward to that. I have some of my own as well. So I'm just gonna go backstage and over to you, Nicholas. Thank you so
Cool,
much
thanks.
for doing this.
All right, cool. Well, I mean, there's an introduction of me, saves me doing it. Look, I have sort of a bit of a time limit on this. Unfortunately, there was a delay and I've got to hop to another meeting shortly. So I've kind of just told people to hold off for a bit. So, I really don't have as much time as I prepared to go over a full-on talk on this stuff with you. So instead, what I think, just because of the time delay, what I'll do with you guys is first say, if you have any questions about NFTs, throw them in, and maybe we could just do a quick fire Q&A. I know that's probably that's not what I expect. I think I prepared a talk, but if you have any questions, throw them in. In the meantime, I will sort of just go over some of the kind of high points of sort of what I wanted to cover. So to give you a bit of background and context, I'm the head of trading for the NEM ecosystem. Part of my role is funds management. Within that, we have portfolios that sort of focus on sort of macro themes. And if you've been in the space for a while, it's kind of hard to ignore NFTs and what they are. So one of those sort of macro themes that we sort of play around in is NFTs. And, as a technology company, we've been exploring ways on how to use it. And there's a lot of sort of exciting applications and, NFTs coming out on sort of Symbol, which is our new blockchain in the coming weeks and months. So to give you guys a bit of a background on the NEM ecosystem, it's a two-chain ecosystem. We have two blockchains. One is the NIS1 chain with the XEM token, which I'm sure you've heard of if you've been in the space. The second is the newly released Symbol blockchain with the XYM token, and that's sort of largely focused on tokenization, whereas the NIS1 chain is more focused on governance and voting. What I'm going to do is quickly share my screen with you guys and just run over some similarities on how I think about this stuff, rather than diving into all of the specifics of this is NFTs and how they trade, just because of the time limit. So let me just get this screen going. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, we got some cool thumbs. All right, great. All right, so let's go. So just in terms of some infrastructure in the space, you should probably be familiar with these names. So you've got blockchains, layer 2 solutions, and marketplaces here. I won't go into them just because we're a bit rushed, but I mean, take a screenshot and do some research if you want to start sort of figuring out how it works and what the sort of I would consider all of these companies on the screen to be sort of pillar organizations in the NFT ecosystem. What I really want to talk about is these guys. So these kind of little infamous characters. If you've been in the space for a while, you probably would have seen these. I see some love hearts coming up there. If you haven't been in the space for a while, you don't really. When I said infamous, you probably don't understand why. But these characters here are perhaps responsible for sort of being the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back in the 2017 bull market, right at the peak of the 2017 bull market for Ethereum. congestion, like we talk about high gas fees at the moment, which is something that Symbol can fix in NFTs, which I want to get to. But we talk about high gas fees now. In 2017, there was less layer 2 solutions. The whole chain wasn't as optimized. And then became extremely congested because people were playing this Cryptokitties game and they were breeding these cats on the Ethereum blockchain. And what's interesting is these cats were selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they literally are like these images that are on the screen. So after the 2017 bubble popped, things kind of slowed down. I mean, as bubbles pops, you go into these periods of depression. Everything in the NFT space sort of started to dry up until sort of May 2020. So yeah, just a year and a bit ago. These garbage pail kids NFTs started to pop up. Now, for those of you who sort of grew up in the 80s, you're probably familiar with these garbage pail kids. And what it essentially was in the 80s was a sticker card game, like where you'd buy these packs and you'd have these garbage pail kid stickers. And they were the sort of what brought NFTs back to prominence, where these cards were being issued on sort of I think they're being issued through the Wax chain, and it attracted a lot of interest into the space, and it kind of sparked off this whole sort of digital collectible thing. And now we have NBA Top Shots, we have sporting teams from all over the world issuing things on the chain. It's gone so big, in fact, that everyone from like a unknown Instagram blogger to a famous celebrity is issuing their own NFTs. And what's interesting about it is again, like I spoke about Cryptokitties in 2017, it correlates exactly with economic growth. And what a lot of these new entrants to the space don't actually understand is the reason why, like I forgot to mention those crypto pail cards, the garbage pail kids, you can buy them for a couple bucks in the primary market, but you can literally make 100x on some of those cards. And that's what's attracting a lot of people to the space. But what they don't understand, it's all a consequence of the bull market. So 90% of the people investing in NFTs right now are crypto native people who are traders, right? Because the main use case of tokens is trading. So you've got all these people in there who've made a buck, and now they want to spend it because it's crypto, and they can spend it on these digital collectibles, which may have value in the future. And that's what's but also it's a trading market because people are buying and some of them going up. So now, okay, I'm going to buy this collectible because, I could make 100x on it. So it's the same people playing in this space. It's not like we've unlocked and tapped into this brand new field of people who want to buy digital collectibles. It's directly correlated to the economic growth of the space. And we can see that here. This is the global manufacturing PMI against the fine art confidence index. We can see it's directly correlated, right? So always keep that in mind. So just quickly, beyond the hype, right, surrounding NFTs, and it is largely driven by hype. There's a few other things that really sort of, make NFTs a revolutionary technology. And, I will tell you right now that a lot of these NFTs are just crazy valuations, doesn't make sense. But the fact is, what NFTs can do to the future of sort of digital ownership and just collectibles in general, be it fine art, be it watches, be it wine, be it anything, is revolutionary. And the fact is, because of that historical relevance, there will be there will be NFTs in the market today, which might be trading for like 1 ETH, that in the future will be worth a lot more just because of the historical relevance. And historical relevance has a lot to do in the art world. So if you want to get a good bearing for economics of this stuff, all you have to do is look at the art world and collectibles like, watches and wine. But NFTs aren't limited to that. And I would have gotten into that whole part if I had a bit more time. But just quickly, I just want to touch on some of these pain points. The reason why I have this painting up on my screen is this painting, even though it might be sort of unremarkable, is remarkable in the sense that it's one of our first, one of the first use cases of provenance in the modern world. So in the top right-hand corner there, you can actually see this faint white writing. And what that is like the ownership of this artwork. So this is a 1500s painting, but it was bought in an auction house in 1780. So what, 200 years before the Garbage Pail Kids cards were first issued. An auction house in West London by some baron, and we still have all the provenance, the auction houses. It's been bought in, all the different owners. It's on the back of the artwork. It's now in an art gallery in London. But it's one of our first use cases of provenance. And for those of you who are familiar with blockchain right now, there's probably light bulbs going on in your head, going, okay, that makes sense. You could definitely put all of that provenance onto the blockchain, and that's essentially why one of the reasons why NFTs are so revolutionary. Provenance is always an issue with art, and that's probably most evident provenance came to prominence in 2007 when the Knoedler Gallery in New York, which is one of the most famous galleries in New York, was involved in a $80 million art fraud scandal for selling artworks without provenance. So they couldn't actually prove the provenance of where these artworks came from, but they continued to sell them. And the value of all the artwork was brought into it was eventually kind of the artwork was fraudulent, so the value was essentially zero. So that raises the question: what are the value drivers of art? You know, beyond sort of how it looks and its hype and who did it. There's a few core things, right? Which is provenance, but also there's the COA, right? The certificate of authenticity. And a great example of this is this banana here on my screen. So you might have seen this banana before. In fact, it's one of the most famous pieces of art of the last decade, right? 2010 to 2020. This is one of the most famous pieces. It's a piece of art called The Comedian. I think it's called The Comedian. And essentially, a famous artist went into a gallery in New York, taped a banana to a wall, and sold 6 certificates of authenticity, right, for this artwork for over $100,000. And that he sold 6, and they were all bought instantly, right? So only 6 people can authentically tape a banana to their wall, right? And now it's worth $120,000. Interestingly, a performing artist walked into the gallery the next day, tore the tape off, and ate the banana, right? So this artwork that you're looking at sold for 120K 6 times. So do the math, and it doesn't even exist anymore, right? But what does exist and what does hold value is the certificate of authenticity. And in fact, we can really prominently see this in watch markets, where you can break apart a Rolex and verify all the parts are authentic, and you can say, yes, this is a Rolex and this is what its value should be. But even though you can do that, if you have the certificate of authenticity, it actually can increase the value from anywhere between 10 and 30%. And then, so that gets us to sort of NFTs. I'm sorry I'm rushing through this. I'd like to go into it a bit more, but just keep into your mind, there's a few things here that we fix, which is this authenticity and the provenance. So we can trace back all the time it's been bought and sold, and we can also tell if it's an authentic NFT. And it's those 2 reasons why this image that I'm showing you right now sold for $69 million 2 months ago. So who's actually seen this artwork? Can I get like a thumbs up if you've seen this? Yeah, cool. So I don't know if there's lots of thumbs there, and I don't know if everyone's tapping or if you hit one thumb and it makes lots of thumbs go up, but it's good to see that lots of people have seen it. So understand what's going on here. This is an artwork by Beeple. Beeple's probably the most famous NFT artist there is, and there's a lot of hype around him, right? Hype. And what's interesting about this purchase of this artwork is it raises questions around sort of art and collectibles and issues that still exist in the modern art world that can't necessarily be fixed by the blockchain, right? And this is another thing to think about. So the art world is heavily manipulated, okay? To give you an idea of how it works, you have art dealers who go and contact the ultra wealthy, and they say, this is a hot artist, you should buy this artist. And then, okay, so I want to own the hot artist, so you buy the artworks, right? That's a private sale. And you have few art pieces from artists actually go to auction houses. So what art dealers will do is collude to pump up the price of a artwork in an auction house, because that's your real reference price to the artwork. So, you know, if I'm an artist and you're all art dealers, right? And I go, okay, well, I'm going to give all of you one of my artworks, and then we're going to put another one of my artworks into Christie's auction house, and you're all going to bid amongst yourselves to bid it up, and you can share the cost. And then after it's been sold for $10 million, you know, you have to price the artwork that I've given you. What's the only analog? Well, the only analog is that $10 million artwork that's been sold. So therefore you can go to all of your network of rich people and be like, hey, this is really hot. This breakthrough artist sold this thing for $10 million. You should buy this one. It's discounted. It's $9 million, right? So this is kind of how the art world works. I mean, that's a very sort of basic example, and I'm sure there's a lot more complicated ways about it, but there's scandal after scandal with this sort of stuff. So, whoops, let me go back. So why I said that this painting kind of highlights that is because the person who actually bought this NFT for $69 million owned the majority of other artworks by this Beeple character, right? He'd actually bought 20 of these artworks, and all of them were a lot lower. I mean, they were still over $1 million, right? But he'd purchased these artworks for like, say, $1 to $2 million, and then bought this. And then again, what's your reference price? Well, generally it's the last bid. And now all of those artworks are a lot more, and he owns the supply, right? You know, he's actually created a token. I think it's called the B20 token, where you can actually go, and then he's fractionalized this, and you can go and buy some of it, right? He's still got a lot of the supply. So what's that do again? Think about it in terms of, so we're breaking down from like hype into sort of these two factors of provenance and COA, and then now we're back at the raw economics of supply and demand. Which is, you have constrained supply now owned by one person, and the last bid is quite hypey because, you know, you've got a Beeple now. Oh, that Beeple sold for $69 million. The next Beeple has to be selling for millions of dollars. So this guy's kind of owns the market now, and as a result, he can profit out of that. I actually need to be wrapping this up in 3 minutes because I do have a hard stop. You know, I just want to go and talk about quickly the technology and sort of what we're doing at Symbol. I think the breakthrough innovation, which I haven't gone into yet, but I would like to have gone into in more detail, is how NFTs share the royalties. So, you know, we go back to this painting. The next time a Beeple painting sells, right, it's not just going to be the gentleman who purchased this Beeple for $69 million who will profit. Beeple himself will profit, because within a non-fungible token now, you can bake in to the smart contract a way that the artist will always get paid the royalty for every sale, right? They might get 1 or 2% or 50%. And this actually revolutionizes industries like the music industry, art industry, collectibles. This is the breakthrough innovation, right? And you will see more and more innovation come to the space purely because of this reason. Every NFT that can be issued, and what we're working on it with Symbol, is you issue an NFT, you mint your NFT, you sell it, and within the code you lock in your royalty. So if you sell, for instance, you know, if you're a musical artist and you release music, every time rather than having to like archaically manage all your royalty feeds, if it's within the NFT, you can basically just have the royalties flowing back to your smart contract. And I can see the host has just popped up here, so I'm guessing that you guys are trying to also kick me off, even though am late for a meeting. So
no, don't say that, mate. Like, you can go on for whatever, like how long.
Okay.
This is a good royalty standard. Like, we really want to know about that. So please don't let me stop you.
Well, no, I have to stop myself soon, but I will make one point. The fact is, with a lot of with sort of the NFT space right now, a lot of the blockchain, a lot of the NFTs are comprised of tokens on the blockchain that point to your data. And if that link breaks, or no service can keep a copy of the data, your NFT is just a hash rather than a digital twin of a piece of art. So purchasing the NFT doesn't mean that you have a license or royalty or ownership. And kind of what we're working on, what we are working on with Symbols, we want to solve this provenance problem. And this is relating back to that painting I showed you, the first case of provenance. And we're building on top of that, is we want to solve this by finding a way to have a container format that packages the token alongside the media file natively on-chain. So rather than it pointing to data, it is the data, and that's what gets traded. Nice. And that's what we're working on Symbol. And I'm going to have to wrap it up there at 1:50. So that was good. I squeezed it all in. Thank you. Can we have any questions?
Yeah, there are some questions actually, Nicholas. And just because we were on constraint of time, and yours as well, we may have a panel discussion tomorrow where if you have time, where we would like to invite you there. Probably like the team's going to get in touch with you. Meanwhile, there were some questions. One which I would want to also ask is from Siddiq Patel, who asks, how do NFTs work when using content that comes under the Creative Commons licenses with free commercial use? So he's basically saying that if some NFTs made from a CC license, like already like out there for public use, and someone makes an NFT and sells that, like how does that work? Can people do that? Just random question.
Yeah. Well, see, this is a massive problem at the moment. This is a huge hurdle in terms of like, are the NFTs that are being issued like properly? Are they legal? Right? Are they legal? And you've got places like sort of OpenSea and Nifty Gateway who are trying to get on top of this stuff, and it sort of slows down the process of people listing. How do you sort of properly police that in a decentralized way with smart contracts? You need to sort of start plugging in oracles and stuff like that. Yeah. But it is a huge issue in the space. But see, the thing is, like, I just want everyone to. The reason why I started off with that context of, collectibles and art relate directly to the economic conditions, and within the economic crypto ecosystem, it's it's very bullish right now, right? And that means people have a lot of money and they're willing to spend it, and that's why things like CryptoPunks and Cryptokitties in 2017. Now it's CryptoPunks. You've got people. That's why this stuff is trading so high. It's not going to always trade this high, but there are, like I said, there's a historical context here, and there will be value purely because of that. So if you go and look at the art markets, you can see that there's certain works that have value because of their historical context, right?
Absolutely.
And there's stuff out. So me personally, I don't really buy the NFTs. I'm a trader. I buy the infrastructure, and I like sort of different tokens and products within there that I can sort of buy to get an exposure, because I like to buy a macro theme. I've dabbled around buying NFTs, but I think that the real breakthrough here is you're issuing art that has guaranteed COA and provenance and can feed royalties back to the creator. So think about that artwork I showed you.
Or maybe, also like going into really fundamentals, if the digital software of creating that artwork as well can have an inbuilt mechanism of issuing a token that's going to be like the end mile of it. like everything that is created from like a stroke of, you can't do that for a physical thing, but I'm saying of a digital print or a digital artwork, or even like a game based asset or a sequence in a game, like whosoever creates it, all right, the like that could be the owner of that file, right? Ultimately, like
Yeah.
it could go as deep down to that. And obviously,
Yeah.
like oracles and other data bridges would be needed to give a complete ecosystem around it. NFTs are a hype at the moment, but there's an ecosystem that needs to be built. Crypto was a hype in the beginning. Obviously, DeFi had to be built, so an ecosystem got built around it. Took time, and I think the same would happen to the NFTs as well over time. And there'd be so much that can happen with it. Uh, we all need to, obviously, like you said, the value, the speculative value that comes to it, obviously comes through the cycles that you showed us in presentation as well. And it's about how the current sentiment of the market is in general. Are people looking at it from a highly scarce or investment obvious perspective, or are they not? So great, Nicholas. Obviously, because we have less time and we'll keep carrying on. It was great to have you. We'd love to have you back as well. And probably like if there is a way that we can have something in the session tomorrow on NFTs, we'd love to have you there. You're really passionate about it, and I see that spark with Symbol as well. So all the best to your project. Hope you have a great journey with Symbol, and whatever we can do, we'd be happy to help from India. So my question wasn't answered, but I'll ask you personally later. But yeah, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Nicholas.
Well, no, thank you for having me. One thing I'll say, just because of the time limits, like, I can see there were questions unanswered there. I think within my profile, there's like a link to my
Yeah,
LinkedIn or Twitter or something like that.
we'll share this as well with the team.
Yeah, just reach out to me, if you want to talk NFTs or just markets in general. So yeah, like I said, I'm a market guy rather than an NFT collector. Even though I've been learning about the economics of collectibles as like a side hobby. I've been sort of making some investments on my own outside of the space.
Yeah.
And when I saw the NFT thing, I was like, it's just the same thing. It's just the same thing, but it fixes some